I'm dropping an underwater camera 300 feet deep onto a sunken warship, and what we saw down there was unbelievable. So without wasting time, let's dive 300 feet below the surface. We started our morning making a 7-mile run south to Fort Lauderdale, where this sunken warship was. Once we got to the spot, it was time to start setting everything up. And luckily on this day we have the ideal conditions, making it really easy for deep dropping. So we took our underwater camera and then we attached it to our chicken rig, where we started rigging up our squid, and squid is like the go-to bait when you're deep dropping. So once I cut these squids into small pieces and everything was rigged, my dad drove us over this spot and we were marking some nice sized fish. So we put this underwater camera in the water, and now it's time to start making our way down 300 feet deep. So we start making our way down 300 feet deep, and the best thing about dropping in 300 feet of water is that it only takes us about a minute to get down to the bottom. And you guys are going to see once we hit bottom just how many fish were on this sunken warship. This wreck that we chose is actually a public number off of Fort Lauderdale if you guys want to go check it out. So we are about 30 seconds off the bottom, and you guys are going to notice today we had the wrong rig for fishing. I forgot one of the rigs at home, so I just made one up at sea, and it really didn't work. You guys are going to see now how important it is to have the right tackle, because on this day most of these fish were able to just pull right off our hooks. So we now will see you guys at the bottom. So we are now right off the bottom, and you guys can see just how big this warship was. This thing was giant. Luckily here we didn't land right in that hole, because that would have been a mess. We probably would have lost our whole rig. But we landed in a solid spot right here. So it took us about 10 or 15 seconds, and then the fish started showing up. You guys can now see the first 2 vermilion snappers, and then on the left is this massive lionfish, and that thing was a giant. So these vermilion snappers started hitting our squid, and these fish are such a good eating fish. These snappers are probably one of my favorite to eat, and for some reason on this day I could not seem to catch one. So all these fish were hitting our squid, and this is what I meant. You guys can see right there, they were hitting our hook and then just spitting the hook. And that's how you know you have the wrong tackle, because usually when these fish hit the hook, you're able to start bringing them up with no issue. At this point now, we have so many snapper around our baits, and this is what the bites look like on top of the water. So just watch that rod tip, and right there you guys can see that's a small subtle bite. And these snapper are really hard to tell when they're actually on the hook. Like right there, it doesn't look like we have one, and then on the underwater camera, it looks like these fish were hooked. So this lionfish was kind of just following our baits around, and these snapper were just figuring out a way to empty us out on bait. After about 3 minutes of watching these snapper just fool around with our baits, it looks like we finally got our first one. And it looked like a nice size vermilion snapper. One snapper is better than none. So we started bringing this fish up, and honestly the hook looked like it was set in his mouth this time. And if you guys want to see us drop a underwater camera under these giant cargo ships, drop a sub. We're going to be dropping that video now in June. So we now had this fish right under the boat, and we were successfully able to land our first vermilion snapper. After we caught this snapper, we re-rigged our whole chicken rig, and now it's time for drop number 2. So we set up and we start making our way down for drop number 2. We are now right off the bottom again here, and it looks like we're positioned to land on a different side of this warship. And luckily on this time again, we didn't get snagged in anything. So we're now right off the bottom, and if you guys are enjoying this underwater video, drop a like. We're trying to discover the ocean video by video. So we have just hit bottom, and it takes about 15 seconds before these vermilion snapper show up again. So we are now surrounded by vermilion snappers again, and there were about 10 or 12 of them this time. And like I told you guys, if you have the right rig, you could come out here and get 10 to 15 of these snappers. On this day, we just did not have the right tackle for these fish. You guys just saw that vermilion snapper hit one of our squids, and again, he just pulled right off the hook, and this is just because our hooks are way too big. So it took again about 10 seconds before the snapper came back around, and that's when we were able to hook into another vermilion snapper. These snappers continued to surround our baits, and at this point we only had like 2 more squids left. Our other hooks were robbed. And you guys let me know in the comments down below, where do you want to see us drop this camera next? We do plan on dropping it under one of those massive cargo ships now in June. But if you guys have any other better ideas, let us know in the comments down below. So we waited a little longer down on the bottom before we brought it up, and that's when one of these vermilion snapper came back around and took a swipe at one of our squids. So as you guys can see, there he is. That's a nice size vermilion snapper, and these snapper, like I told you guys earlier, these are some of the best eating snapper. They are absolutely delicious. So right there, he hit the top squid, and it looks like we're finally hooked up to one of these vermilion snappers. So we slowly started bringing him up, and you guys can see the other snappers just kept following us up. There was just so many of them on this wreck. So we now had this fish right under the boat, and after seeing all this footage, we're definitely going to come back to this spot with a better rig. But we were successfully able to land that vermilion snapper. We hope you guys enjoyed this fishing video, and we hope to see you in next week's Barjack's Family Fishing video.